Hello.
Hi. Are we expecting more than 100 people?
Yeah, we're good for 500 now.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
impressive.
bring them on.
Yeah, no, don't say that. Please stop.
Please. No, we don't need that.
Hi,
Yeah, that was
Jim.
quite a turnout last night. That was good to see.
Yeah. Lots of mm, lots of involvement. I need more light. Oh, there we are. Starting to feel a little like fall.
Is it funny how quickly it happens?
All right, let's see. I know Bob mentioned he was not available tonight. I didn't hear anything from Jim Walton, so
I know he's traveling or he's not in the country, so I guess he might not be able to communicate either.
okay, got it. All right. Well, I think we can start then. And we'll begin. I think tonight's going to be one of our shorter meetings.
No.
Maybe I shouldn't say
Last
that.
words.
But,
Sure.
just like reviewing the agenda. Anyway, we'll start with taking a look at the September 5th minutes that Susie sent out. Give folks a second to pull that up.
It looks fine to me. Oh,
Yeah.
so I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from our 7/25. No, what
Yep.
date is this?
9/5.
No, 9/5/23 meeting.
All right.
Second.
All right, Jim Hemingway.
Yes, Susie, could you add in 1C on the minutes, all request forms, just all completed request forms? It was a little confusing. I think people might just think that the forms, I don't know, but completed request forms, I think makes it a little bit clearer. That would be a suggestion.
Okay.
Susie, I had one other suggestion on 1D, Roman numeral 2.
Yep.
I think we should just say importance of using the FinCom drafted budget request form.
Okay.
I think the point there was that we don't want them to just kind of use their own form, but we want them to specifically use ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question about number 5.
Sure.
Yeah, so we should keep an eye on maintaining the assessment agreement for the 5-year rolling average statutory. Yeah, when I talked to Doug, I told, at town meeting, I told him it was really important that this be in the agreement. He says, yeah, that's what this vote is. But clearly it's not, because I went back and read Article 2, which says for fiscal year 2024 only, which I should have seen at town. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to detail, I guess, at town meeting. But I just want to reiterate that I think it's really important that, right, this statutory method, rolling statutory method, gets documented and finalized in the regional agreement. But I'm really concerned about that given turnover that we've seen in not only the regional school committee that's supporting this method that we're using now, but also the loss of the superintendent who understood the issue, at its root. So I guess I'm just editorializing it. I really think it's important that we try to find a strategy and I don't know how to go about that given the current, but we need to get that solidified.
Yeah. And I think, what George, just to fill you in, I mean, I think there are sort of a few, there's sort of a few different reasons to be concerned. One is the turnover issue, which you've already stated. I think the second issue is that there's going to be pressure on the budget. Everybody has been warning about with the no longer having access to some of these COVID related funding streams that were used to kind of fill some of the gaps. Those aren't going to be available. So I think it's sort of a combination of like turnover plus, there's going to be a lot of pressure to reduce the budget and a lot of concern about that. And so I think we're gonna have our work cut out for us in terms of making sure we continue to advocate for this, and not take it for granted.
Yeah.
In terms of minutes, are there any other suggestions?
Nope.
Okay. So Jim?
AJ, I do want to ask, this is, the minutes are fine. I'm, as you know, I voted against in the 4-2 vote against the revision to the way departments, and I'd like to ask a few questions and see whether others agree or disagree on that. Now, maybe this is not the perfect moment to do it, but I would like to sort of do that at some time.
Well, let me ask you, Jim, can you hang on to that for a few minutes?
Sure.
Let's vote on this.
Right. Well, I didn't want to interrupt it with this sort of.
Yeah. And then, I think we do have time tonight, so I think.
Okay.
So we need a new motion to approve these minutes as amended rather than just as they
Okay, so moved.
are.
And I'll second. Okay, George, you want to start the voting?
Oh, Arvanitis, aye. Oh, I'm rusty.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Stein, aye.
Okay. I'll
Okay,
fix them.
thank you.
Though George, you weren't at that meeting, were you?
I wasn't. I'm absent on the minutes.
Okay, so you should abstain, I think, rather than.
Oh,
aye.
yeah, sorry. Okay, I abstain.
Yeah, just,
Thank you. Like I said, I'm rusty.
no, I thought you were,
It's
No
been a
worries.
few months and I've been in a meeting. It's
you're good. It's good.
All right. Okay, so Jim, did you have those questions kind of?
Yeah. Well, let me try and take a stab at it.
Sure, go ahead.
There are two reasons for sort of simplifying the way departments report. One is the newly proposed way of you have listed simply salaries and all other expenses combined into one. And the question is whether that's a good idea or not. And we did discuss it to some extent. And I think it comes down to whether all of you think that forcing a department to itemize in the way they have been itemizing to date makes them think more closely about the money that they're spending. And whereas if they just have one lump sum, they may just say, "Oh well, we'll just go for a big number," and hope, because most people know that whatever number gets through the system, so to speak, will be approved at town meeting. It just seems that it could be costly to us or costly to the town if we don't force departments to itemize things and think closely about how they're spending their money. Whereas if it's all big lump sum, it's sort of easy to sort of come up with a big number, which is just going to wind up costing taxpayers more.
Right. So let me try a quick answer, and then I see a couple of hands up. So I think the quick answer is that, I was a little concerned that there was still some confusion about this. Departments will continue to itemize their budgets and share them with the FinCom and discuss them with the FinCom during our budget process meetings with them. Nothing is changing there at all. The only thing that changes, and we will in the future receive expense reports that are aligned with those itemized budgets, and so we will see how departments are spending against those amounts in the itemized budgets. The only change that is being implemented as part of this process is that in between the time when FinCom votes to recommend a budget and the presentation of that budget at annual town meeting, there will be a form, a display form for that budget that collapses each department's kind of non-salary, non-wage lines into an operating expense line. And so that budget will be shared at annual town meeting and will be voted on by voters at the town meeting. That is the only, and what that's accomplishing is, I think, two things. One, I think it will be helpful to not all, but some members of the town. It'll be easier to kind of absorb the budget because it'll be a less complicated format. But I think more importantly, it'll allow department heads some flexibility if in the middle of the fiscal year they see that there are some unanticipated needs, and they will have the flexibility of moving funds from one line to the other without the need to meet with the FinCom and ask for a FinCom transfer. That's it. So I don't think that your concern is warranted, because I don't think anything changes in terms of the way in which department.
So it's more than simply a way to show town voters to simplify the presentation of the budget at annual town meeting. That I can understand. But I thought if it stopped there, that would be fine. But then again, if it's lump summed all together, I guess that's all right. But I just worry that if we don't ask for itemized details from all the departments, I think that would be a mistake. And I think that's what Bob and I were concerned about last week or last meeting.
I see George. And then Susie.
I didn't get in front of Susie. I thought Susie was ahead of me.
Okay, yeah, I think Susie had her hand up and then pulled it down. But go ahead, Susie, and then we'll go to George.
We reviewed the budget request forms last week, or no, whenever it was our last meeting, and you can see that all the line items are listed on the budget request form. And that's where it starts, and that's what they're going to fill out, and that's what we're going to consider, and that's what we're going to approve. And then it reports onto town meeting floor as not one lump sum, but wages in one line, operating in another. And some actually departments have a little bit more detail probably in front of town meeting. But then once town meeting approves those two areas, those two categories, the departments are allowed to move within those two separated categories. So you can see from the form we put out we agreed to last week, it's not going to be all one lump sum in front of us or from the departments. We're still going to dialogue on each of the lines.
Okay, thanks, Susie. George, and then Becky.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to recommend is that maybe we do a mock-up of the FY24 budget to see what that would have looked like had we done this. So I saw in the minutes that, and I know I volunteered to come up with a format and a template that when Becky fills in the details, will create a separate budget. And I think I'm going to work on that now and maybe have it for November, December, so that we can really look at it and decide. I understand that we've already approved the concept, but when we look at it, we might or might not have a different perspective on it. And I also think one of the tricks is going to be which lines get accumulated, because there are exceptional lines, such as the ones that roll over from year to year, that we may not want to roll into the expense, like the independent audit. So there are things that we maybe haven't thought about. I know we also talked about how few departments there really are where this is going to happen. So I think a mock-up and a review, maybe, we can devote a half hour at one of our meetings, hopefully before the whole budget process really takes off, to see how it works.
George, I think that's an excellent idea. I think you're right that there will be a handful, maybe a couple of handfuls of questions about, well, we could, how do we treat this particular line? And we can devote a chunk of one of our meetings to kind of going through those one by one and collectively make a decision. Okay, let's connect this line to the expense line, or let's have this stand alone. And yeah, we could work through all those issues, and then I think that'll help us manage the budget process in the spring when we're all so much busier, and we'll have worked through a lot of these sort of gray area issues in advance.
And hopefully, I was just going to say, and hopefully that mock-up, I can send it to everybody so everybody can look at the two side by side, and everybody can kind of see what might be important to them, or something that somebody notices, and then we can have that conversation.
That's a great idea. Let me go Becky and then Jim.
AJ, just because Jim might have
Sure.
a question for George,
Okay, sure. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, George, do you think this would apply to the MLP, for example? In other words, would the MLP be given the same sort of,
No.
or would this be separate from the MLP?
Completely separate from the MLP. And I think the MLP,
Okay.
it's my gut feeling that everybody's going to want to see the details on the MLP.
All right, okay, because we often wonder on the MLP whether if we had some gigantic storm and we had a rush around, we had to spend tons and tons of money on repairing phone poles and God knows what else, that we might run out of our emergency funding for that, and we would like to reach into one of the other ones and grab something out. It's just one of those sort of unforeseen circumstances, because we have had a few of those lately.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the kind of issue we're trying to sort of help.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Becky?
Fine.
I was just going to say, so my understanding is what we are doing is in preparation of annual town meeting.
Correct.
So at annual town meeting, we'll have a different document to present. But throughout the budgeting process, we're going to use the document we've been using, correct?
That's definitely my understanding of how we've been discussing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, just to answer that, if I may, on the mock-up I do, Becky, I'm going to try and set it up so that you continue to work with the spreadsheet you always work with, and then there'll be a mirror image of it, if you will, or another form of it, only in the condensed version. So I'm going to try and set it up so you don't have to fill out both forms. You're still going to work with the details, and we'll have that detail schedule. You can distribute it like you always do, but there'll be the subsidiary schedule that we can use at annual town meeting.
So, in
I
other
think
words,
that's
George,
what when we went through this process 10 years ago, that's how he set it up. It was like a linked page, so you input on the one sheet and it linked to the other. But
That's right. That's
nobody
what I'm
ever
going to try to
wanted
do.
use the other one.
Are you telling me there's a template that you've used in the past that does this already?
It didn't function 100% properly, George. I mean, I
That's
can show
fine.
you
No,
what
I'll
we
build
had,
it
but
from
it was,
scratch.
yeah, it wasn't very well done.
I'm not guaranteeing you that I can do it, by the way. I mean, it's going to have its challenges. Trust me, it's going to have challenges.
I have a system to do it. If your fancy one doesn't work, I have
Well, let me
I
give
know
it a
how to
shot, and I
delete
may be
columns and
I
cut
may
and
be
paste.
contacting you, Becky.
Then you can sell it to other towns, George.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Get rich.
Yeah.
April.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize that one of the beauties of this is this will give town department heads a little more fluidity in how they manage their operating budget without having to come to us. That we will still get the report detailed, but they can make switches within, as the year goes on within their own budget. And I think that's part of the beauty of this.
Yes.
I would also say one other thing, and that is when we get the mock-up done, Becky might want to show it to the accountant and everybody who does the warrant articles to make sure that there's no legal thing that we trip over, when they're processing warrants. I don't know what it is. I don't know enough about it to know that there isn't a trick. So
Yeah.
a trap.
Sorry. AJ, just one last thought.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
Jim, I will double check with the accountant to be sure, that I know that we gave you the right answer about the MLP and the enterprise fund.
Okay. Mhm. All right, thank you.
I
Thank you.
think just one other sort of detail point or process point that occurs to me is that I think we will have to have the detailed budget available, posted somewhere for the public in advance of annual town meeting. You know, in the interest of transparency. I mean, there's always going to be a handful of residents that really do value the details and are gonna want to have access to that. And so I think we're gonna have to do a little work, like a little public education work, maybe during our budget, you know, presentation that we do in the spring. That, look, don't be alarmed. There's going to be a new format to the budget that's discussed and voted on at annual town meeting, but it is linked in the following ways to a detailed budget that we've been working on and meeting with departments on, and you'll have access to that information and be posted. You know, I think we're gonna need to do some work to just, you know, make sure that people understand kind of the reason we're making this change, and and have to make sure that they understand they'll have access to the information in whatever sort of level of detail they prefer, you know. Okay. Anything else on the budget format topic?
I just wanted to say just briefly that I really appreciate, you know, both Bob and Jim, your kind of push back, that I think that's really helped us kind of see this whole process more clearly. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I think the next thing I have listed on the agenda is just an update on the FY25 kind of budget process. I know, Susie, I sent you the forms that we edited. So are you going to be pre-populating those with the FY24 numbers? Okay.
Yeah. So they are all pre-populated.
Okay, great.
A packet was sent out to their hallway mailboxes and also by email, because Becky pointed out that some people use email. Oh, wow. And so everybody got it both ways. And then there's many departments that don't get a form and don't have a liaison. They get the letter. And I think the letter is important because it says what our goal is level services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Susie, they should have all gotten the form.
Do you do blank forms for like
Yeah.
Board of Health?
Yeah,
We didn't do that last year, but we can.
but I used to always put the blank ones in the boxes.
Okay.
Everybody got one.
Okay, so I
And we
need
didn't talk
to-
when, yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry.
So I'll fix, so some more people need to get the form. They're not people that we meet with, but everybody got the letter, everybody got the schedule. I felt like the letter was important because it sets the stage of what we're looking at for FY25. And all of the departments have the email version, and then I did email the letter and the schedule to people like Board of Health and Building Committee, and even though they don't have an appointment with us, they can just see what's going on. And that made me think maybe we would want to put the letter on our FinCom page, which we might have done in the past, I don't remember. But we have a hard time with that schedule. It keeps changing. And so having it on our web page might cause some confusion. So, but I do think we should put in our FY25 letter on our web page.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. George?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, you were gonna create a Google Docs, a location, and put the draft letter there for FinCom. Have you done that yet?
I have not. So we did spend a couple of minutes at the last meeting discussing kind of a better process for the collection and sharing of the completed forms. And so the decision we made is that they're going to be distributed to all members via email, and then I will, for sort of backup purposes, share it in a Google Drive. So
Yeah, I only asked because I just wanted to see it, that's all.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I
I
will
mean, if you're not gonna be able to do it soon, that's fine. If you would send it to me, just so I have a record of it.
for sure.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you during this meeting, but I'll also post it to the Google Drive. So I think we'll use the same drive, but that we did last year, but I'll just have a
Oh, okay.
FY
So the
20.
link I have for last year, I can use for
Yeah.
everything this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll just need to click into a new folder that I'll create for.
Yeah, 225 of 25 folder. Okay.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, is the letter and the form, I know it's being put into, maybe I misunderstood or missed this, but the letter and the form is going into all the mailboxes in the town hall, which often just sit there for a while. Are we also going to send them out via email to the heads of each of the departments? And those
Yeah.
both?
We
So-
did, and I also sent out
Okay. I just wanted to be sure about that, because there was some question about whether we were doing both.
yes, we did both, and then the email is going to all departments too, to let them know that it sits in there, it's sitting in their hallway
Oh, good, okay.
mailbox.
In addition to they're getting the form via email. Okay, that's good.
Thanks for all that hard work, Susie. I appreciate it. Okay, let's take just maybe a minute or two just to talk about the kind of liaison communication. I think that might be useful. So we have like the start of a set of bullet points that were in the minutes that Susie prepared. I'm curious about kind of what's the timing of this? When should liaisons be reaching out to departments? They pretty much just got the letter and the form within the last week. So is this the time that we should be reaching out? Is it closer to the end of the month? I don't know. What do folks think? Susie?
I have a school committee meeting on Thursday night, so I'm going to mention it. And I did send an email to Caitlin to say, here's the letter, here's what we're doing, and I'll work out with them the issues around timing and their meeting schedule. So I believe we should probably make contact soon. I didn't give, I mean, we all can get the emails from the town website for each department, but and actually I think most phone numbers are there too. So I think you can use the town website under contact town officials to go ahead and begin the conversation.
Okay. So if we're going to be I think, is it reasonable to say that kind of the expectation will be that everybody will reach out to their departments by our next our next meeting? Does that sound doable for everyone?
Yes.
And George,
Heard.
I think George, you and I should just have a quick chat offline, because I know you have like a whole collection of people, and I had volunteered to help you out with that. So that's it's not one phone call, it's a few,
Okay, just, yeah, let me know when you're available. Reach out to me.
I'll send you
I'm flexible with time because I'm retired.
Yeah.
What's the deadline for returning these?
It is the end of October.
And George, one thing you should know just in terms of dates is we added some language in the letter which again, I'll be sending you, that made explicit our expectation that capital requests will be submitted to capital planning committee by no later than February 1st. So
Okay,
we're trying to kind of head off, a problem that kind of came up last year where there were some capital
you
discussion.
said you gave them a deadline of February 1st?
Correct, for capital requests, yeah.
That seems late to me. All right. Well, that's
Yeah. I think it was connected to some guidelines for the
Bylaw.
planning. Yeah.
okay. All right. And it doesn't matter what I think about that, but I just,
It's not the submittal of the capital request
Right.
deadline, George. It's only that if something comes up, you're saying you've drawn a line in the sand and won't consider people after.
oh,
that
I
point.
see. Right. Good
Usually
point.
the capital requests start in November and December.
Right.
Yeah.
Because looking back at history, that's important.
No.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of in terms of kind of key points we want to cover during those conversations, the liaison conversations. So we kind of emphasize the need to use our budget form. There are a couple of exceptions to that, I guess, one being the school, which is obviously
Library, MLP.
and library, right? Are there any others that come to
MLP.
mind?
Region.
Region and MLP.
MLP, yeah, okay. So other than those exceptions, everybody should be using our form that is kind of important to emphasize is going to be pre-populated with the FY24 numbers. So we will be able to see very clearly what changes are being proposed for next year. We're going to check in on kind of maintenance history and needs. Going to ask about that, and we'll talk about sort of deadlines for budget proposals, requests for capital planning. We'll, everybody has a copy of the schedule. I'll post it in the Google Drive as well, our tentative schedule. So we'll make sure they're clear on when they're going to be meeting with us. Are there any other topics or kind of bullet points we want to make sure? Oh, we talked about limits and use of FinCom reserves. So what do we want to say about that point?
Well, for one thing, we need to have it a specific documentation or a specific request. It can't be like vague.
Right.
And what we talked about when this came up was letting people know that, we have a limited fund of 75,000 and we spent it all last year plus. So we need for their budgets to be prepared so that there's not such a need for, they need to think about their budget so there's not such a need for FinCom reserves if possible.
Right, right. Yeah, this is truly like meant to deal with an unanticipated expense, right? This should not be something that was predictable, and it's just a question of the department failed to plan for something that was foreseeable. Okay.
We're also hoping that the review of maintenance history and needs will help anticipate some expenses that could be better anticipated.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, were there any other kind of key points? Obviously I think we should each offer ourselves as a resource to that person if if questions come up along the way. But anything else that folks can think of that we want to just cover during those calls?
Well, Bob also wanted to clarify that we are not advocates, we are clarifiers, and we are communicators and keeping people in the communication loop, but we are not specifically being their advocates to the rest of ourselves or promising. No promises, no ponies for everybody, okay? So we're just doing our job.
Yeah, and I think that's super helpful that you reminded us of that. I think the kind of scenario that we want to avoid is one where, like, somebody in a conversation with the liaison says, you know, I think it's important that we have financial support to do, you know, A, B, or C. Is that something you can, you know, relay to the committee or something like that? You know, like that seems entirely plausible that somebody will, you know, in conversation with a liaison might say something along those lines. And I think the message ought to be, you know, that's not my role as a liaison, but you should, you know, email the chair, say that you want to be put on a FinCom agenda to discuss whatever it is. And that's kind of the way to get that whatever that issue is addressed. It's not like your role as a liaison is not to, yes, is not to advocate or even sort of like kind of set the stage for some kind of request that might be made of, you know, part of the department. It's really about, like, yeah, helping them with kind of with the process, the budget process, and
Facilitators.
Yeah, exactly.
During this process.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Okay.
think the opposite side of that is it's not our job to tell somebody they think it's a bad expense or no chance for it. We're not judgmental.
Right.
So I think last time when I was doing the school stuff, I think some people may have thought that I needed to have a role in terms of that, but no rules like that.
Yeah. Right. We have a schedule of, you know, meetings with each of the departments, and that's the, you know, that's the appropriate forum to have those kinds of conversations or ask those kinds of questions. Yeah. All right, great. Okay, anything else on budget, sort of getting the budget season kind of launched up and ready? All right. Next up, I have project updates. So I don't know if there are any if there's any developments or that we should be apprised of, school roof, culvert, PFAS, anything new since our last? Yeah, Becky.
The culvert project is within a day or two of having the water control system functioning.
Right.
So that's going very well at the moment. And just everyone keep staying positive and think dry thoughts.
The
The
weekend
school-
doesn't look good.
The school roof is
Doesn't.
complete. It's had its final checklist approved and signed off on last Wednesday. The contractor has taken some drone aerial photos. He has before and after shots. But the before shots were in January. So only about a tenth of the roof is showing because of the snow. So it's not, but the after shots are very good. If you've been to the school, and if you haven't, go check it out. The principal is thrilled. The workmen and the company they found to be very, very hardworking and industrious. And so the whole project went well.
Awesome. That's great news.
That's awesome. Great news. Thanks for moving that along, Becky.
Especially because the bid came in so much lower than we expected. That's great.
Yeah. Do we have a final? Do we have a final cost on it, or?
I'm working that through. I think we're going to get about a $3,000 credit that's being worked through, and that'll bring the final cost down about $3,000. So I'm waiting for that paperwork and sign off on that, and then I can tell you. But I think they're even being the lowest bid by a remarkable amount, because they have very, they're experience as a DCAM certified company is quite, only within the last 2 or 3 years. So they're new to DCAM, and it's worked out very well.
Decam?
That's awesome.
DCAM is a classification required through procurement laws that certifies the amount of experience and rating of any contractors. So
Oh,
they
I see.
don't allow just any roofing they don't allow municipalities to use just any roofing company. That's what the experience was. Hayden Roofing that had put in a bid for ironically close to what we ended up paying. We couldn't have them do the work because they weren't DCAM certified. So the state has threshold requirements, and they, that if there's any problems with a contractor, it gets reported, and people can lose their DCAM certification.
Mhm.
Jim,
Becky, on the culvert, I went down and I took a close look at what they're doing. They about 70% of the water is going through the rather oversized culvert pipe. I think we could take a major hurricane and it still wouldn't fill that pipe because so little of it is really being used. But about 30% is still leaking through. Are they going to really? Are they going to?
They have
correct
not
it?
completed the crossover, Jim.
Yeah,
It's in
yeah.
process, and the final materials have not been laid the plastic that secures around the big, huge sandbags.
Yeah, the sandbags on,
been-
yeah.
It had not been laid down yet at all.
All right,
So
there's something
they
missing
were
because,
well aware it's not complete yet.
okay. Because we're monitoring it closely, believe me, over here. Everybody wants that culvert done as soon as possible.
Yes, and some people were very expressive with their language on the signs.
I bet they were.
WTF.
Yes, I
It
saw that.
does.
I saw that endorsement.
Yeah, no, it's been a really long summer, and I feel terrible. We've done everything we could. Hopefully that's actually we'll be able to close the books on this one for another 50 years.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
it's easy.
I was wondering if the town should do a town announce about the completion of the roof once Becky feels we're at a certain point, because we had a lot of people breathing down our necks, complaining at town meeting, worried. And I think it would be good to make an announcement that it's done, and maybe that it was,
Well, can the
a
school
good
committee put
process.
that, can the school committee put that in their next write-up for the Our Town?
Well, our town, the timing might not, our town's coming out very soon.
Okay, too
So
late.
it might
Okay.
omit, I don't know if anything got in there. I don't know where that, I know it was gonna go to the printer. I don't know if it has, but we're not gonna mess with it. It's either in there or not. But even if it is in there, I think having a town announce is another opportunity to set people at rest about that, because it was quite tumultuous.
And I think it could also come from the building committee as well as the school. I'll talk, there's a building committee meeting tomorrow night. They've been great, showing up for meetings. Jeff Quackenbush had been assisting me throughout the project, but then he's been on the committee, and he and other members have been showing up at all our regular site visits, and no, they've been real supportive and helpful.
I could maybe talk to Jackie and get it in the Road Town News, because she writes a paragraph every.
I'd be surprised if she doesn't do it herself.
Just make sure,
That'd be
because it's
touch
all,
base.
that would be different lanes of telling people. We know in this town, communication's really tough.
And okay, as far as projects goes, PFAS, I'm trying to get back to. I've got a little bit of work to do there, and then it should be quiet for a couple months. But the other open, yeah, those are the two main projects that are coming to an end.
The gas at the
Did the,
fire station.
did
Gas
the,
at the
the
fire
security
station.
cameras get installed at the elementary school? Did that already happen?
The what?
The
Cameras.
security cameras?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were up before the
That happened over
roofers
the top.
came.
Yeah.
The roofers had to be careful of them. The cameras were installed, the carpets went in.
Right.
Yeah. Remember the rain, I think about a week and a half ago? That it was a driving rain. We got 4 inches in about 2.5 hours. Well, we had a situation where at the school, we put a new carpet in the library. With that torrential rain, they had water leaking into the library. So our first, the day we complete the roof project, we have a leak that's coming in from ground level. And I think we've determined that a cause of it is about 3 or 4 years ago, we replaced the conference room windows and because they had all rotted out because of all the water drainage problems in the courtyard. But we didn't replace the library window, which is just as, it's quite badly rotted out as well. So it appears that the water rushed in under the rotted out window. So the building committee is trying to figure out how to stop that. And it could have gone in under the door threshold as well. So we've got to look at both of those items.
Is that an insured loss? Can we collect?
We didn't lose anything. It was a wet carpet for the custodian was there when it occurred. He put fans on it immediately and it was dry in a day and a half. So it's not a loss. Jackie thought there was a horrible smell. It turned out they had an area rug that just smelled. And that was taken immediately to the dumpster.
Solve that problem, right? Which all our problems are rather easy to fix.
Well,
Yes.
they will be getting a new area rug, so.
The sliding glass door, wasn't that recently replaced?
There are 2, Jim.
Oh,
There's one at the conference room end of the, but it's not a culvert, it's a
Courtyard.
courtyard.
the courtyard, yeah.
The
Okay.
other C. So we already fully repaired the conference room end, but as we were not spending much money, we only did, although we recognized the problem at both ends, we only solved the worst problem and left the other one for another year. And now we're going to have to address it because it's rotting out as well.
Okay.
All right. So that might be a capital planning request
Yeah.
for this year. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Okay. Any other project updates or questions from the committee?
We have a new highway superintendent.
Yay.
Can you share an update? I hadn't heard this.
Oh, this was one of the fastest committees on earth. We did this process within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most. We ended up on the committee, we worked hard, got the questions, blah, 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 all of that stuff together. And had 2 very qualified candidates to interview. And we had a long discussion, an honest, open discussion, and we chose Steve Sullivan to be our new highway superintendent, I guess as of October 1st.
I think it's actually September 29th.
That Friday. Okay. Yeah.
Tim's last day is his anniversary date, which is September 28th, 24
Okay.
years ago.
We should talk about that. But yeah, it was great. And the select board has already appointed Steve, so we're all set.
Terrific.
It's a miracle.
Jim and then Susie.
April, what is the story, if you know it, on our town dump truck that apparently broke down and had to be towed up Wendell Road when it was trying to just,
Yeah.
and so it was sort of parked where Wendell and Locks Pond Road meet. And that sounded pretty serious to me because they had to actually tow it up the hill, from what I understand,
Wow.
and full of gravel, which was a real problem. But do you have any sort of an update on that, or Becky? Do you?
No, that didn't come up.
It sounded expensive to me.
They
the
did
truck
have to
just-
take it to, was it Fairfield? No, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the new truck. The new truck, was bought from Fairfield. They did have, it is a major repair. And they did have to have it, towed all the way after emptying the gravel, of course, to, I can't remember where. But Tim told me there was one day they had a number of things break down, and that was one of them, unfortunately. And ironically, it was parked in front of Steve Sullivan's house right during
That's right.
his job interviews and stuff, so it was kind of funny.
It didn't come up, but I was wondering if he thought he could drive that back and forth. No.
Yeah, I know, that was, people were kidding him that, oh, you're already driving the truck home, huh? And, but no, it broke down while they were they were working on Wendell Road, because it's taken a lot of work to keep it going with the, with the
Tell
culvert
me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the potholes are getting worse and worse. But we don't know what happened to that truck. And how new is that truck? Is that one of the newest ones?
no,
It's not. It's
no,
it's
the
an older-
newest one is Steve's truck. The other one that's the
Oh,
fan,
okay, all right, okay.
I think it's the oldest truck.
The oldest truck. Wonder what happened to it.
Sorry,
course,
I can't recall. I don't want to tell you transmission when it wasn't, it was
Yeah.
something made more significant, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
what it
I
was.
got the feeling.
Oh, I
it
think
was
it wouldn't have been the
hydraulics. The hydraulics,
No.
perhaps, because they couldn't dump
Speculating
the
won't
gravel.
be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll
We'll find out.
find out for you.
Yeah.
We
Right.
will find out, yeah.
Sounds expensive.
Susie?
And so to replace Steve, is that just, you put out, a request for applications and then it's just the select board that does that?
It's not the select board,
Okay.
it's the highway superintendent.
Steve, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, so that after he's appointed, or before, I've been talking to Steve about it, but we're trying to, I will have the personnel board look over the ad, maybe on Thursday night, and then we can get the ad out. Just want to make sure it's up to date for a highway operator. And the one, we're hoping that the intern that they had from, I think it was Smith Vocational, might be interested in the position. He's just getting his CDL and some other things that were recommended to him during his time in Shutesbury this summer. But he's very interested in the position.
Nice.
That'd be great.
It's a hard position to fill. Highway operators can make $80-90 an hour somewhere else. So it's really, it's a tough market to find somebody in. So hopefully Ben will be, maybe he will be interested, or maybe more people will apply this time. We don't know.
He doesn't live locally, does he?
Yes,
Oh, Ben does.
Yeah.
Good.
he's
Well,
in Leverett.
Oh, in Leverett. Okay, that would be
That's
That's-
really helpful.
that'd be very helpful.
And he
Okay,
did an excellent job this summer.
That's
He's a
awesome.
Real hard worker.
Good to hear.
okay, we had an expense report review on the agenda. I think the most recent one we have is through August
August.
31st.
Right.
Becky, is there anything more recent, or Any concerns
I
about?
looked back through and I didn't have one more recently. I think we're
Okay.
close to another report coming out.
Okay.
But the only thing I saw that was kind of interesting, I think we're getting more online with our health insurance since we haven't increased our budget in 2 or 3 years. And you know how the payroll comes out with a percentage?
Yeah.
And the payroll percentage on this on the August one is 14.43%, 14.48%. And our health insurance is running at 14.14%. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to stay within the health insurance budget, but this might be a much more a year when we use up a more significant amount. I mean, all of it. Last year, luckily, we had over $50,000, which helped in all the finance committee issues. We were able to replenish the finance committee.
Right, using that, yeah.
With using that, but it looks like things are tightening up on that line.
So Becky, for that line, do you think that's 2 months worth of premiums?
Yeah.
So 2 months worth of premiums would be like 16%. You know,
Round it
So-
off.
so we're yeah, that's positive.
Becky, I heard rumors to the effect that health insurance is going to jump significantly next year, 24. Is that true? Have you heard any rumors about that? I guess it's all hearsay.
For the municipal employees?
Yeah, well, all for maybe for everyone, but I just remember hearing someone speak of a radical increase in health insurance costs. There always seem to be a lot of health insurance cost increases, but this one seemed to be even more so. I don't know. I just wondered if you
For
had
the
any.
municipality, for us?
Yeah, well, I'm just
No,
curious.
I have not heard anything about
Okay, well,
that.
that-
We did have a bit of an increase this year, and most years we haven't had one.
Mhm.
I don't know if they were referring to this year.
I don't know. I just thought this is rumor mill stuff. I just thought I'd ask you whether you'd heard anything.
No. And we wouldn't know this early in
Yeah.
the year
Okay.
for FY 25.
Right.
The decision making by the Hampshire County Trust starts in the fall. And then there's meetings in the winter.
I see. Thank you.
All right, did anybody have a line in that August 31 expense report that they flagged or wanted to ask a question about?
I can wait till the next time around.
I know it's a little, I find it a little hard this early in the fiscal year because
Yeah.
Right.
so many of these lines are like barely spent, but I'm sure it's just the normal lag of the bills being sent out.
I
George,
did have a question. Yeah, my question is, Becky, when did we expect the final expense report for fiscal 23?
By mid-October, it might
Okay.
be earlier,
Okay, but it's not ready now. Okay,
not quite. We still had, there was something, Gail needed one more report. I mean, I think she's waiting on the school for a couple things. And then she'll be able to start working on closing. I mean, she works on all the other reports, but the closing report she can't do until everybody has everything in. And I think
and she's going to need that done to certify cash, right? So we're going to be
Oh, yeah.
waiting for that.
okay, any other I'll just open it up for any other updates or business committee updates. Susie?
Aaron Saunders had to change the date he comes to Shutesbury, and then it got a little scrambled. So it's been hard to focus on when he's here. I went to the last one, which was September 11th, and the next one will be October 2nd, which is a Monday, and he's at 10 o'clock at the town hall, except it's actually his rep or his aide assistant, which is who is Maddie Sinsley. And so I got my own audience. I was the audience of one for her. And I suggested to his office that they collected our emails, that they send out a notice that the meeting's going to happen, because it's hard to dial in all the different things. So I'm hoping, I guess I'm going to email her to make sure she's going to do that, because has been listed on the library website, but it seems to me this is part of their job for outreach. So there was no talking to the aide at this point. She listens, but she doesn't have a lot of what's going on kind of knowledge. And
You just started in July.
she just started, and I don't think that, so, utilizing her will help clarify to Aaron what kinds of questions people have and what kinds of information they can prepare for this. I did bring up, I've been watching the solar forum, and I can see how the state and the feds are really working towards funding and making equity for solar. And I wondered about wind, since Shutesbury also has wind, and the last funding for that came out of the utility. And so she was going to check if there's anything in the pipeline for wind, but it's clear the state is really focusing right now on solar. And I guess that's all I had to ask. It does help if other people come, because the conversation gets a little more generated.
And that, you said October 2nd at 10 a.m.?
Yep, that's a Monday at the town hall.
And that would be with the aide again, not with Aaron, right?
That's what it seems to be.
Seems like, okay. All right, George?
I'll try and be there, Susie. To that extent, in that vein, what do the members of the finance committee want us to bring up with that person? Because Susie knows what she wants to talk about. I know what I want to talk about. If anybody else has any, we should just share it. I want to talk about Chapter 70, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not that I do that. And Becky, please double check what I say. It's the foundation budget is calculated for each town. Minimum contribution is calculated for each town. The difference between the two is the aid. And when I look at the foundation calculation, it's 1.4, 1.5 million. Our budget's 2.2, 2.3. So, it seems to me the formula is just getting antiquated, or it was never adequate. Maybe Jay Killow, when he asked that question on town meeting, was referring to the fact that the way the state calculates it doesn't calculate the real cost. And so I feel like I want to have that conversation with somebody. And, we should push on that in some way. So I'm certainly going to bring that up. I don't know what it's going to get me, and I'm not even sure the best way to frame it. But it does seem to me that the state, clearly the reason our tax rates are going up is because the aid from the state is a real problem in my mind. So I don't know. That's something I'm going to want to talk about with this person.
I think I should send out her email and Aaron's email to everybody on our committee. And so you can also send in some questions before the meeting, because it's clear that she is not the front, she's the back. So we could have that. Yeah. I'll send out those emails.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
I have a few other things too, AJ.
Sure, please.
I wanted to ask about when the annual report is going to go out. Well, let me back up. So we got cherry sheet estimates. They're not final yet, but I did a quickie analysis. I think Susie prompted that. So I did a quickie analysis, and it looks like right now the estimated cherry sheet amount is about $6,458 more than what we used in our budget. So a little savings there, and we're not going to get hurt by it. When the final one comes out, I'll update it. When I was going through and looking at that, I was looking at our annual report and I saw an error on one of our charts, one of my charts, if you will. And so I don't know when the annual report is going to be due for Shutesbury's annual report, but Becky, I'd like to send you an updated one. It was in the revenue pie chart. It was missing one of the revenue sources, the state portion, which is kind of significant. Nobody noticed, and it was still broken out in the table. So we had it there. Everybody saw what it is, but it wasn't showing on the pie chart. So I updated the pie chart to have it showing, and I have a new version of that annual report. So I just want to make sure that the final record that's published has the proper one.
George, if you want to send it to me, I'm just going to forward it to the admin secretary. She compiles the annual report and she'll pull out the one she has and tear it up and put the new one in.
Yeah, good. That's all I want to make sure, because I'm sure she's using the one we presented at the annual town meeting, and it did. And I apologize for that error. I don't know how I missed it, but certainly, as Susie pointed out, that won't happen again. So, anyways, okay, good. And then I also wanted to. I already brought up the state rep, so that's good. I want to let everybody know, I guess we'll call this a committee report. We're going to be meeting next, the assessors board is going to be meeting next Wednesday. And it looks like David Burgess is going to have a new growth number for us. So we'll be able to compare that to what we use for the budget, and hopefully that will be higher. And then he said he might even have an estimated tax rate for us. So me or April will bring that to the next meeting. He did mention that he'd be able to estimate that tax rate if he had the budget, Becky. I don't know why he was saying that, because he should have the budget, right? The approved budget. So I don't know if you need to talk to him.
I mean, it's been around the assessors.
I'm surprised that he made that comment. I figured he had it.
Just tell him
Well, he
it's
didn't come to
purple.
town meeting, and then he went to Europe and traveled around. So he
Still, but I mean, he comes to town, he works in the assessor's office. I mean,
Yeah.
it's right here. I mean, I can't imagine that he doesn't have it. So I don't know, maybe you can follow up with him. You don't have to, whatever. I thought that was funny. And then one final thing is, it's just me. I can't make October 3rd. I was wondering when the next meeting was.
Sorry, George, you broke up for me there. Did that
Well, when
happen
will
to
the
anybody
next
else?
meeting be? I'm not going to be able to make October 3rd.
That's our town. We could either do it on Wednesday or you'll miss it, I guess, on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, and I'm sorry to miss so many meetings, 2 meetings out of 3. I'm traveling again, but hopefully this will be the last. And this is one that I can't log into from remotely.
Yeah.
More remotely than I am now. So anyways, want to get that.
So
Thank
did
you.
you want to, do you have another time you can make or not? Sorry.
Well, not that week. I can make the following Tuesday, but I can't. I'm traveling Tuesday through Thursday or Friday. I forget when I'm coming back.
And we don't want to get scrambled with the
No.
select board.
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah. Not on my
No.
account, please.
No.
I apologize for missing. And that won't happen, especially once we get into the budget process. So I say,
No worries.
We'll hold you to it.
okay.
No worries.
George, if there are updates from the assessor along the lines of what you were talking about, if you could.
Well,
Yeah,
April will be able to do.
Yeah,
Okay, so April will be able to share that.
He's
Great.
also a member, just in case you weren't
that's right.
aware.
George and I are on all the same committees.
Yeah, what's up with
Right.
that? It's weird. I mean, no,
It's
that's great. That's wonderful.
it's the best. It's awesome.
A lot of fun, April. It's great.
Jim,
Yes, George, this is a sort of a conceptual question, but you're sort of following this more closely than maybe all of us. Is there any sign that the 4% millionaires tax or the fair share tax has actually brought any benefit or increase from state funding to us? You mentioned how how, once again, we're not getting the kind of support from the state we had years ago. I just noted, I wondered if there has been a change in the trend, so to speak, and perhaps something has come of it. I haven't seen any sign of it, but you're closer to the action than I am.
No, I'm not any closer to that than anybody else is. So yeah, Becky's the closest person. I couldn't answer that question. I know what I read in the paper, which is what we all read in the paper.
Yeah, okay.
The
Thank
lion's share of the funding all went to higher ed,
It's
To
to
what?
what?
to higher education.
Oh,
They did a better job of lobbying.
Yeah, they outdid
Did
the
Desi.
municipalities.
oh.
Yeah, that's what I knew. That's
Yeah.
what I read.
But there's some worthwhile programs. They're trying to get free education for community college students.
Mhm.
First they did a
But
benefit.
over
people-
25 years old.
Yeah, but I think that's their first shot over the bow. But I don't know where I heard her, Maura Healy, saying, we're working towards. Oh, maybe it was
It was in the paper
Comerford.
yesterday.
Joe Comerford also said it at the Dems party. They're working at getting free community college education. So we all benefit from these. We just
Mhm.
wish our pockets were a little heavier.
All right. George, go ahead.
Yeah, which I think Susie just made a reference to something. I'm curious, Susie, did you attend on Sunday, the Democratic? Did you have any other tidbits that might be useful to us?
It was Jim McGovern's there. It's amazing, the man standing up after being in the House of Representatives.
Crazy place.
It's remarkable. No, there wasn't any big revelations. It's meant to sort of mobilize people to recognize that not voting should not be an option. And so there's a concern that the turmoil may suppress the turnout, the voter turnout. And so there's, more effort to pay attention to getting people engaged in a conversation and dispel some of the rumors and misinformation.
Mhm.
So hopefully we will have a good turnout in 2024.
Amen.
He did call McCarthy spineless. I mean, really.
Yeah, he is. He's a puppet to the nut jobs.
Yeah, so he's right there in the well.
I'll tell you what. I just don't understand why the Democrats didn't say, listen, Republicans, come up with a reasonable guy and we'll vote for him. It's not in our best interest to watch this.
Mm-mm.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. I must say, Aaron Saunders didn't come.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens there.
That's too bad.
Mhm.
All right. Any other updates from anyone? No? Okay. All right. So I think we will go ahead and meet on the 3rd. We'll fill you
Yeah.
in, George. And anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Okay.
Overnight aside.
Hemingway, aye.
Pass you. Aye.
Mosier, aye.
Stein eye.
Okay.
All right.
right.
Have
See
a
you
good
all.
night. It's good to
Take care.
see you
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care. Bye
Good
bye.
night.
see you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good couple of weeks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. You want to record the stop?